don't want to go first? This will be an informal discussion. It's not like marked for anything. Just about like how you want to go about your projects and sort of get feedback. You know, some of you talk and sort of go. So we are here sort of listening questions. It's not going to be an extended presentation. It's just to give us a sense of what you're thinking about and to give you an opportunity to shout your ideas about what you're interested in doing, how you're going to approach it, like what's going to be the subject, be the matter, the medium. Are you writing a brief? Are you writing a poem? Are you doing a video? What's going to be more? I would just say make sure that when you work on that you connect it not just to the idea that you're working on, but to human dignity, so that it's then focused on that topic. So if you're interested in, say, children's rights, that's my talk related to dignity, the way that we've been talking about it. So that's it. That's good.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mohammad Musiuddin from Chennai. I have an idea on a concept on dignity of Muslim women. I have prepared an article titled Dignity of Muslim Women, Jurisdictional Analysis of the Arabic term daraba in Islamic law and its implications for a cooling off period akin to Section 10 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955. The abstract of this title is, this paper examines the concept of daraba in Islamic jurisprudence, focusing on its implementation as to separate or living apart. In fact, the word daraba is interpreted by classic Islamic scholars as admonishing or disciplining the woman by using a small force, like using a kerchief or a small miswak, which is called a toothbrush in Arabic. Where the progressive Islamic scholars and its potential to facilitate a cooling off period for Muslim couples contemplating divorce akin to Section 10 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955. In fact, Section 10 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 stipulates judicial separation, which is living apart without divorce. You are still husband and wife. There is no such codified provision in Islamic law. Therefore, my effort, my initiative, by analyzing classical and contemporary interpretation of, particularly in the context of Quranic verse 4, chapter 4, verse 34, the paper explores how this concept can be interpreted to align with the dignity and autonomy of Muslim women. Drawing on the works of progressive scholars from India and globally, as well as Indian judicial pronouncement, the paper argues that a reimagined daraba as a period of living apart promotes gender justice and reconciliation, consistent with the ethical principle of Quran and modern human rights frameworks. The paper concludes with a recommendation for integrating this interpretation into Indian Muslim personal law to enhance women's dignity. Thank you.
Can be dissemination material. That is, we need to educate people on the idea of dignity. So the focus needs to be on how dignity is involved here. So the other aspects are important, of course, the context is important. But what we are trying to transact is what aspect is being highlighted here. We discussed so much about the various forms of dignity, isn't it? So can you elaborate more on which aspect of dignity do you think is most relevant here? Is it a combination of, let's say, because If you're looking at women and the question of divorce, big question that comes, uh, right? A lot of not allowed to work and hence they are economically dependent. So there is an economic dimension to it. There is also a personal liberty dimension to it. So are you looking at it as a combination of dignity ideas or a single dignity idea? Can you elaborate more on two things? What is the mechanism that is the strategy or tool or a legal mechanism that you think we can use? And second, what aspect of dignity do you think is invoked here? So please explain a little more.
So, to start with, I'm thinking of writing letters to institutions. For example, the just started mediation center in Shahi Masjid in Hyderabad, which has been established for the first time in Andhra and Telangana and supported by the state legal service authority. They have been trained by the state legal service authority that the persons in the mediation center have been trained by the state legal service authority and their discussion, like this center is going to act as a mediation center under the aegis of state legal services authority. So they, for the Muslim couple who are contemplating divorce, they can suggest this cooling off period, which is not existent as of now. And similarly, uh, I'm planning to write to such a similar organization elsewhere in India and approach the courts to incorporate this principle whenever, so that to suggest the family court especially, whenever Muslim couples approach them contemplating divorce, the family court may suggest this idea of cooling off period, which is called dharma.
Do you think would be useful for this?
Yes, if a cooling off period is allowed, there won't be any whimsical pronouncement of divorce by Muslim men, arbitrary. Actually, there are 4 weeks of separation in Islam. One is initiated by woman, second is initiated by
Taking all those subjectively, right?
yes, of course.
It could be.
A Muslim woman will be saved if there is no whimsical and that is divorces pronounced by Muslim men.
Does anyone want to go next? It's not a very formal thing, so you can just tell what your ideas are.
Hi everyone, my name is Shivani Kadar and I'm from Symbiosis University. So, basic idea that is related to dignity, that is, I've written a paper down. So I'm thinking it AI, how it is interacting with now as we all are uh, with AI. So how it is interlinked. Example that I'm giving. But a small application, it is asking you to tick on some basic level. But as we all are hurried at this point, that on how much allow some data, and we are not even aware regarding it. That allow that you are giving to the next person. So this is very like at my pace. This is very influenced by personal that want to give the access to this particular app that I have to give. And I'm not even aware regarding that. So the basic idea revolves around that. So that's the idea. I, like I'm not. I'm still doing. They
I think we also want to set out is, are we going to do group projects or are we all going to do individual projects?
I'm
So-
okay with group project.
As all of you are listening, you can also think if you want to do something on your own or do you want to join a group and maybe form some kind of a group. Let's this out. Listen,
I just want a very quick follow-up question, but I appreciate you sort of talked about what sort of focused on the privacy aspect. My question is just, are you thinking for Justin to think out in addition to privacy and think sort of the main thing, but that's a big but it's so to not to just think about it. I that's the thing. The big privacy issue. I
Hi, my name is Shiv.
My name is Abu.
My name is Shreya. I'm from the fourth year here at Northside.
And I am Apoor from the fifth year.
Thinking of doing a group project and thought that we out. But yesterday after class, we did some research and we watched this documentary by the brothels. It's from 2004, but it's a children and sort of traced how prostitution has interacted with the legal system in India. And in 2022, we did have the Supreme Court of India recognizing that prostitution is a bad work and it's disrespectful. But even after that judgment, we have seen cases of police, local magistrates who have forcefully interacted and tried to rehabilitate sex workers. But we think that with this video, it should be tried to do it once. Northern belt, a lot of magistrates will be able to communicate with that. Um, that we can like, see that if for interaction, the law on real lives, the dignity aspect of it. That's the what like that's good society as they call it, but also being able to exist with such means, but adequate means in life. That's all. That's what. But one should. Oh, we were thinking we could do a little more research because with children we can also add a small section of it. Because what we have in terms of reported incidents are sex workers, but not that stupid. I think adding child support or something reports to a topic. So child sex in those areas. They're not. The red line. Yes. I think.
So that was the title of the video, Born in Purple. So as we need more, we, we as of now want to see what is going prostitution interact with the legal system. As well. And try to see, I mean, this is one question as well, not as a primary part. How exactly are those different 6 months. How exactly they are that's a smaller part of the entire big project.
I think you should find this, even that we're working on. Might be useful to think about one because then what science is undergoing and what the person in Pittsburgh is undergoing are two very distinct areas. I don't know if you necessarily have to do everything and one grand narrative.
We'll try to narrow it down and get back to you on that.
To add, I complete interesting project, so thank you. Sort of great. So I think then for this project, it's such an interesting topic that I'm wanting you to think about this one. And so just in English response and then applicants. You know, it's time to do that. But also think theories. But what's the thank you. So you like narrow it down and get back to you. Thank you.
I'm Bharti.
I'm Advait.
In the first class, I think you said it is the right. I mean, it's right to have rights. I mean, last few minutes, we've done, but we wanted to sort of rights of time. Um, we might post it. That's what sent to its garden to stop like nature's property. It um at and also Ecuador, for example, in its constitution. We have decided liquid. Yeah.
I'd only like to add that the inspiration was the first uh, uh, issue, which was in the dignity law. Yes, ma'am. On constitutional uh, 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 personhood. So, ma'am, I was as our opinion at least has been that all of this has to do with the scope of the right and what do we mean by the term dignity, and all these discussions only extend to humans. So we feel that if we do something specific for for the, let's say, even animals, etc., then it would be good.
We have no discussion regarding pollution that happens to, let's say, rivers. So that's just like one example, and obviously we'll have to narrow it down. But there has been a fair amount of discussion in Delhi regarding, the way the Yamuna has been treated by the authorities on the way garbage is being done. So these are very important environmental questions as well, and then it would be an intersection of sorts between the two fields. So we will obviously have to narrow it down, but there are some concrete real life examples that we can focus on. And there have been some schemes and movements from different central governments clean up the Ganga River. So these are just some examples that we can focus on, and this will add a policy angle to the entire thing. So these are broad areas we have right now. Obviously, we'll have to narrow it down, but what I think.
Manfred, we were not sure about what is the best way to do this as of now. we are open to suggestions if anybody has anything. But as of now, it would be hard to do it in an audio visual format. But that is what we are inclined to because it would be more of a creative expression. But I think
So it's and when you're filing forms, right? It's not just even pose these questions. I think would be like the start to use with some sort of maybe the audio format. Um,
So, super interesting. Um, can you just tell me, is this an area that you studied or worked on before?
I that was also it wasn't research. It was more of narrative building.
Yeah.
So call it a decentralized justice type of system, but basically we went it was like circle and we come up with posters to because we never think about so it's a paradigm shift, but it's it was very new so that's what we just spoke about it. And we also look at, for example, we look at dates, certain dates, and so stupid is not wrong format.
That's, this is really interesting. You understand? You're right. It's talking about environmental issues. There's been a lot and a lot that's been written about rights of nature. As far as I can tell, Jen's as basic rights. So I think that this is a really interesting area to explore. And I'm happy to talk to you more about this. It's the entire environment, right? So it's huge as a topic. So I talk to you about class today, just about ways that you can make focus so that you say something important about specifically you're focusing on broad generalities. So I would invite you to check address them. Hi, good morning. Good morning to all. So I'm Stuti and this is Jenny, my friend. We are in the penultimate year of study at the on platform. Our topic today is media time and how media impact technology. So I talk about our topic today. We structure it broadly in four parts. First, we'll talk about the relevance of the issue. We'll then go that exist and how we research on them. And then we'll talk about which aspect of dignity we're focusing on, and then concluding with what type of project we think would suit the research we do. So the first structures there are two. I'll be giving the Jenny will be Latin. When we talk about the relevance of the issue, these law and he was cleared by CBI court of all charges that charged against her about 5 years. Now, just to brief you on the case, she was charged with the murder of her boyfriend, Sushant Singh Rajput. And this was a very famous media trial in India, 5 years, when not just Instagram, but all social media platforms, all media houses, we got this news being brought. She was actually being held guilty before the court even held anything on her on evidence. So why I think this is important is because it was a live example of who witnesses were influenced. And I specifically remember that media persons and reporters were going live on her family's doors. This was literally the impacting of due process and how it was subjugated in front of the whole nation. So we the court failed. The Bombay High Court failed because they could have done a lot of things, including contempt notice being issued against the media. First, second, the gas orders. So that those steps have been restricted from presenting and displaying specific information. And so the Bombay High Court would have issued just to law enforcement agencies to protect the identity of the accused or family and also the friends of the victim of crimes and damages. So now if we can go on.
Good morning, everyone. How we connected this to the dignity course that we had over the past 2 days was this case basically violated all the three baskets of dignity that we discussed yesterday as well. From what I found prima facie, we found that there is obviously the right to dignity. Chakravarti's vilification by the media itself before even the court trial happened. Secondly, her right to live with dignity was violated. There was obviously her mental health was affected due to the entire national gossip that happened because of the case. And not just her, it also affected her family members. Thirdly, her right to full development of personality. She not only lost job opportunities, she was in fact sent to prison as well for the time being. So, what we are planning to do in this project is either we can write a letter to a judge regarding what would have been done in future, what possible suggestions we can give. What she said we can kind of like take hearings or we can give media guidance for enforcement, especially in trial court level. One aspect we would like to focus on, I forgotten and can balanced with the media's right to inform the public about whatever's on with the country. Alternative to writing a letter would be what you said yesterday about educational content for judicial. It depends on if suggest something we can work on.
See, two, three things. One, in this specific case, she was acquitted. Right? But let us suppose that, she was arrested and she was put in prison. Like so many other cases. How media portrayal actually seriously influences the minds of the judges at the lower level. It's accepted fact that the High Courts and Supreme Court take up the cases for 5 years or 10 years. By then, the more media portrayal doesn't have any influence on the minds of the judges. And courts are also saying the lower level judiciary is under the influence of this media portrayal. And even if they find there is no prima facie case, still they cannot let these people go. Okay, now from this one can ask a lot of questions. That lower judiciary being completely independent of the popular opinion is a myth. You guys have taken up the celebrities case. But otherwise, this is much more devastating for a ordinary thief who is accused of a theft. See, she was not produced before media by the police in a hood where she was asked questions. But in case of majority of the accused, involved in ordinary offences, they're used with a cover. It is only what police say. It is being recorded by the media, and it is never the other way around. The accused is never asked any questions. At least in celebrity cases, the celebrity accused and also their family members are asked, "What is your opinion?" But in ordinary cases, their opinion never counts at all. So my point is, in day-to-day life, ordinary case, how it really deeply influences the minds of an ordinary judge who cannot really escape from the media portrayal. And lower level meet always depends on the police. That is how they survive. For the first 100 years, crime cells that media realized in 1920. That's years old. Crime cells. And public wanted to read this. So, let's touch upon these larger issues, want to react. From that, the others may say that, these are, if it comes one or two cases, especially this lower level where convictions are given, even in celebrity cases. And reflect how we portrayal in a very, very negative manner. We can minds then actually that would do a lot of
So thank you for bringing that point. It's a very interesting, it's an interesting area. Some people who find for much more focus. For example, do you guidelines for media or what is the like for okay? Yeah, it's of a larger society that seems very, very involved in kinds of time. So who exactly is your audience? Maybe you want to think a little more. Do you want it to be the judiciary? That is, and so but people, what kind of questions? What kind of questions of these? Like we know that celebrity is a gap. Right. So what kind of questions have been asked, let's say, in a celebrity? Like, yeah. Oh, I think there was also some judges who were involved in case. A court gave a gap. So, lawyer project. I were a lawyer of the judge, or what is to take, or want to be a member of society that wants to alert all of us on how behavior is influencing the way, or if you want to be a concerned citizen looking at media and talking about. So, I think here, maybe you want to think a little more. What exactly are you want? If that we just as case of really just to highlight the elements of the issue. Topic, but we look at other things. For example, even if media portrays a case, we have just before judge, he actually observed a 17-year-old juvenile who had killed two people through his Porsche car in the accident, and he was absolved by just writing a 300 words essay and some other minimal task. So even the media highlighted and the media actually critiqued the punishment given to him, which was not really a punishment. So I think we look at all these aspects and research on we would like to address
to the judicial itself, to the charge system, they should be taking up this duties. Strategy as it is obvious. Current point. So you can come back to this time. And based on based on the that's already portraying about them. So yes, I focus on ordinary people and body as well.
This is really interesting, and I appreciate your writing a letter to a judge. If that's the course. You instead of competing interest, the public's dignity-based right to know, which in some instances may be minimal, and in other instances may be. I mean, there may be ways for not suggesting that that's necessarily a conflict, but it's an additional interest to know what our courts are doing, and if they're so just to invite not just defendant, but others involved.
We look into it because we also think that given India's population, it is most important that the judges strike balance between public's right. Thank you.
I'm Ashley from here at Landscape. I want to work at for women. So what can understand that is that with the politics, these are fine. Yes, we see that the numbers are not really showing. See that the budget which is being allocated is not being used. And so that's take where different facts of this type that counted. This or it's not. The second thing, yeah. Probably started number of what area I'm doing. So that is that. This person, this that we are able to master these rights. And, you know, some responses, that's something, do something. Because issue is, it's very sexual. Once spent in prisons for people, and also because it's women, because it's which is so stigmatized now, that even if something that is not even if it's focused in that area, nobody actually cares because they don't want to be that one. So it highlights this is issue that you should be there for. So these are two aspects to take, and I would love to have your thoughts on how you go about it. I have anything to say. But I think it's a great project. And sort of is it, I think every issue that I can think of. So I think it's interesting in that. And also
So.
As you were speaking, the one thing that struck me was these days when you're looking at relief packages, which are whether what's what's happening at the sites of natural disasters, there is an attention that is being paid to these questions. And I think somewhere there seems to be attention that this is something that you will have to account for, and drawing attention for something national project, I think. No? So I think if you link it to that question of how invisible this question is and how people, and maybe look at a poster, you could do a collage maybe of reports where and instances of people really, even women in solitude and countries which are in operational. This becomes a tool of another tool of punishment by depriving them of their basic dignity, become access to these facilities, right? So I think very interesting project, but you might kind of open it up by looking at whole business of menstrual health and how invisible it is, how invisible, and but at the same time there are openings that you are able to see, right? Point out to the few instances where it's like somebody is noticing that along with that, this also becomes like a need needs to be accounted for. I think that would be a very interesting project. We can look at all the things which are not happening, where there is some attention that is being paid. A lot of those places where there is some attention being paid, they're actually called technical projects. Like they staff to in cases of extreme crisis, like wartime, but also in cases of poverty and that sorts of things. But fun.
Yeah, so, yeah. If something stable.
Especially sanitary pads being supplied to the prisoners. It was almost some 20 years ago in South India, South Indian prisons, they started it. North India, what is the condition? I don't know. But serious concern is the health question. As a law dignity question. But in context, it becomes a serious problem. 50% of the prisoners, women prisoners, are in male prisons. So 20% of the prisoners are in prisons specific to female prisoners. They take sanitary pads, no handling, because everything is handled by male prisoners or male prison officers. So what is their level of sensitivity, how they are handling? There is hardly any risk. Whether income prison manual or prison law. If you speak to some prison officers, you would know. Or you can call the women prison officers. When on the websites, their phone numbers are all available. There are hardly some 11 or 12 women prisons. So they speak up. But numbers I can give you open perspective. Take experiences of yeah.
Sure. But shouldn't there be jumping? Or shall we?
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible? Hello.
Okay. Yeah, Shani. I think.
Can I present, ma'am?
Sachin is.
Okay, okay.
Am I audible, right? Hello everyone, my name is Sachin and I'm from the here at Nalsar. And I'm a person with disability myself. And a few years ago, I came across news, and it was more of an outrage where there was a under trial prisoner, and he was old, more than 80 years, and he had Parkinson disease, in which the hands are not stable and hands are shaky, and he was not able to drink water from the glass, and he requested for a sipper bottle or a straw, and he was not allowed to he was not given a straw, and he was not able to drink water, and it sparked an outrage. And I understand like how it is life without dignity in the prison. What I want is that also I was talking uh, uh, when I was interning, I was talking to my senior, and he was telling me that whenever a person with disability is arrested, so we have to move an application that they are not able to take care of themselves because the conditions in the prisons are not as if that they can live there with dignity. And so what I like envision is that like in future, if let's say is there an so in the arrest memo, the arresting officer can add if the person has a disability. Or when the person is produced in front of the magistrate for the first time, the magistrate can ask them if you have a disability or if you need any like equipments with you. Like for example, hearing aids. I heard from my senior that hearing aids are not permitted, and because of that, like they cannot function properly in the prison. So I want uh, if like not just outside in the prisons also, if every person with disability or without disability can live with dignity. And uh, uh, honestly, I don't have any idea that how to write for this or what would be the format of it, but like if I can somehow uh, like make the courts to come with a guideline or an SOP, so that would be like helpful for everybody.
You can talk to Professor Murli once and understand if there are existing guidelines or SOPs in the prison. And if you would want to suggest that perhaps these need to be critiqued from a lens of perspective. Why it is a dignity question. So I suppose the dignity angle, while there is discrimination, while there is other questions, how does dignity bring an urgency to the whole project, like the Stan Swami case that you're talking about, right? You could focus on what aspects of dignity within the prison system uh, get involved here, and state cannot deny dignity, even if it is able to deny other freedoms or restrict other freedoms. What are dignity? And this is not just Stan Swami, right? We also saw it with
Other cases also.
yeah, Saiba. There was a lot of question. Ask, what is it that a person is entitled to, even if they're accused of the uh, most, what is understood as the most heinous kind of crime? What are questions of dignity that are still important for the courts to take into account? One way, or if you want to say generally in terms of disability and dignity. So that I can see at least two distinct things here. Maybe you want to clarify if you want to focus on one for now and then explore about it later. One is, how is the question of disability or dignity question and how does it get framed for ableism that is coming out from prison manuals, which are accounting for persons with disability across the board, right? So this whole business of, whether it's a sipper or whether it's a wheelchair, whether it's a hearing aid, or whether it's any kind of support that persons with disability would require within the prison, where is one project? Your project is like a denial to a particular kind of under trial, right? So I can see this, maybe you think a little more and see which of it for now you would want to focus on.
This one.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
The only thing I would add for those of you who are not just me, or anybody who's thinking about doing dig in prisons, we spend a lot of time, but you might have to be what's called which are UN guidelines on the mental state to treatment for people in prisons. And I'm trying to remember if you talk about disability and I don't remember. But the premise of them is that every prisoner must be treated with dignity at all times. And that sort of built framework throughout thinking about what are the standards. So thank you. Sounds like
May I present now, ma'am?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Janvi and I am going to discuss my project with you on and I'm doing this online. So in case my voice breaks at any point, please let me know. My project explores the unregulated participation of children in India's influencer economy, particularly on platforms like Instagram, YouTube. TikTok is not there in India, but other such platforms, and how it violates their constitutional right to dignity. So we have children like Riva Arora and Barkat Arora who are celebrated as digital stars. Their visibility is built on a legally unprotected and emotionally extractive foundation, one where parental authority often masks coercion, and where representation substitutes consent, and their dignity in these, especially in the influencer spaces, is both commodified and ignored, especially in the kind of captions that their parents who are marketing them put on under their videos, which are quite inappropriate. So at stake is not simply child labor, but the dignity of the child as a person, including firstly the autonomy, so the ability to say yes or no to public exposure, because what happens many times is that the children are exploited by their parents for financial gain. Relational consent, the right not to be overruled or erased by parental control, which is very important. There is also representational integrity at stake, so the ability to control how one's image and identity are portrayed online, and most importantly social dignity, the freedom from being reduced to a performance or like a simply a money making machine. And during constitutional law 1 we had a framework of purposive constitutional interpretation, which Vasanti ma'am had discussed in her class. And so this project contains that the right to dignity for child influencers must be read as an implicit constitutional right flowing from, again, Article 21, life with dignity, Article 14, equality. So these are not just rights that fill the gaps, right? So they are, we had a reading by Aaron Barak, which was removed later, but they are in a sense daughter rights that arise from the logic and structure of the constitutional itself, especially where parental power become exploitative. So just as judicial independence is not say per se written in constitution, but is essential for its functioning, so too must digital dignity for children be inferred as a constitutional constitutional guarantee. And there is a very famous recent case of the US teenager Piper Rockel. So her content was allegedly monetized through coercion, and it was produced under Bop House, a production group with links to OnlyFans like marketing. And this serves as a cautionary tale because Piper Rockel is still just 17 years old. And there is also the issue of sharenting. So it shows that how sharenting has evolved from, say, benign documentation of, say, oh, how my child looks so cute, to a form of invisible, unpaid digital labor, where the child's image is traded for likes, brand deals, and family income. And in such cases, consent becomes a legal fiction, and a child's autonomy is lost. And Indian legal frameworks have failed to recognize this harm. So the child labor, I am still researching about this, but from what I know, the Child Labor Act of 1986 and the Child Labor Rules of 2017 regulate TV and film-based child work, like limiting film hours, mandating schooling, but ignore the home-based influencer-driven content, which is often more profitable and pervasive. And the legal gaps currently include no recognition of digital influencing as labor, even when monetized, no framework for obtaining a child's informed and age-appropriate consent, no legal accountability for sharenting or for parents monetizing a child's identity, no statutory right to be digitally forgotten, especially for a child, because there have been many instances wherein the parents have shared embarrassing videos or dances, or you might have seen the family vloggers who prank their children to get likes. So even Article 23, which prohibits other similar forms of forced labor, is rarely interpreted to include coerced digital performance by children. This project argues that children are turned into content in today's age. So performing, promoting, and profiting others, they're entitled not just to the likes and applause, but to constitutional protection, and their dignity is not parental property. And that is my project. Thank you.
Janvi,
Yes, ma'am.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can I seem to have missed the format that you're thinking about. Could you just cover that again?
Ma'am, format as in?
Yeah. So like this morning we've been talking about, one is the idea and the concept, and second is what kind of a legal intervention or education interventions, you know, essay or a poster or a letter or public.
Ma'am, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, you couldn't hear me?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. All right. No.
Hello?
Hello?
Is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Ma'am, what were you saying about the format? I could not hear you.
So we've been saying that since this is a clinical course, it's not like a regular course. There is going to be no exam or a submission of a paper. We're looking at any legal tool that you can use. So this could be in the form of, let's say, outreach material, or we were thinking of maybe an intervention in ongoing case, or developing a procedure that we can talk about, or even if it is like as a lawyer, what kind of questions would ask better remand, or it could be or a video, right? So we were thinking of these formats as the submission for the course. So do you have any idea on what kind of a format you want to use?
Ma'am, is it okay to like draft guidelines or say like protocol for digital child labor? I mean, just as an example.
So we're not looking at, because drafting is and we were looking at something that is deliverable by the end of the week. So we were not looking at
drafting protocols, at least not as an individual project. We were thinking that we could talk about drafting a protocol if there were at least 5-6 students who were involved and we could think of a protocol. But as an individual project, it might become too much for us to expect that this whole process can get done in the next 2 days. We were
Ma'am, can I think over it and let you know by the end of the day?
continue presentation. Yeah, you can think about it. Please think about it. We have a tutorial again tomorrow morning. All of you can, this is the first preliminary presentations that we were thinking about because we also wanted feedback if you wanted to do what we had planned, which is work with a lesson system only, or you had other ideas and whether you wanted it to do it as a group project or a solo project. So this is the first conversation that we are having on your assignment. So that's perfectly fine. You can take your time. And maybe by tomorrow morning in the tutorial, you can give us a more clear idea of what you're doing and what kind of support you require from us. Yeah, so please mention that as well. What kind of support you're looking for, what kind of inputs you're looking for to make sure that you are able to present your okay?
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pranav, and I'm a final year student at NALSA. The aspect of dignity on which time is the right of elderly senior parents to continue maintenance and live a dignified life. In the semester break that just got over, I visited a senior citizen facility in my hometown. And the things that I saw in that facility were nothing short of a sorry state. Most people that I interacted with were elderly people who had been fraudulently deprived of their own hard work, their own hard-earned property by their children, by their children. And most people did not know of their own rights in maintenance. And it, so the aspect of dignity they in this particular clinic is their right to be informed that they have a right that dignity is the right to claim. That's the right to claim maintenance. They are entitled to rights of which they are not. The format which they can use in making this content is a short video which is informing in a senior citizen of their rights, of the existing or a small bit which can get this in short is what I
Elaborate about what aspect of dignity you think is most useful here because we're all familiar with the fact that whether it is still of senior citizens, we go more on this idea of it is content, your duty, studies. It is as an obligation. You know, to borrow from the disability framework, it's seen as pity, right? How will framing this as a dignity question change the way in which we do it?
there are existing rights that address for the
Right. So there are existing rights. There's a whole legislation also, but does it even use the word dignity?
yes. I think the main aspect of it is that we
Dignity rights, the right to claim rights.
as a right to claim right, as the right to avail the helplines. Solve is the main question that comes to be is that if without sources, be aware of their rights which exist on paper, but that they have absolutely no idea. So, which brings me the appropriate format to address this question of dignity. Dignity as the right to claim. dignified is aware of their rights to a short or to a short gives them a simplified version of the rights that they can or appropriate authorities that we can. I think these
Do you want to think, I'm just pushing you a little further and hoping that you take a little deeper. Why do you think senior citizens don't see it as, do they question, what is your assumption that they don't see it as a dignity question? Or they do see it as a dignity question? Because when we are talking about awareness, there is this slip into this idea that I know something you don't. It's the equation where again it's very looking down on somebody who does do it on their own, right? So how are we going to avoid us telling? Because then it's already there. Right? So in terms of like even if you want to call it a moral and legal dilemma, if you say that they already have this dignity, then what is it that we are going to do in terms of educating them and I'm just wondering thought.
so the audience that I would be dealing with or even with respect of seniors in the facility is that they don't have a lot of help. They are people who don't get a lot of monthly allowance. I met a lot of people who were entitled to pension but did not spend, who had property but were out of their property by and if and this is the audience that we're dealing with. I agree with the fact that dignity is inherent in it, but we are dealing with an audience as a matter of fact which has not been able to fully realize this dignity. There are people, the people that I interacted with in the space giving very abject dignity. People who are based for the lack of with only the most basic of amenities being provided by the facility. So I think given the fact that there is an existing framework, there are helplines and there are laws that address dignity by their parents or other people who took advantage of their administration. I think with caution and with a little bit, it can be a worthwhile endeavor. And we can help elder people realize that they have rights that they can claim and connect them can help them. I think this would be what really
Professor Fasante asked me to tell you a little bit about the organization that I run called Dig Down. And I just want to show quickly, so it's basically dedicated to a lot of this exact same company to raise awareness of dig, all different aspects. Look, thank you. To raise awareness about dignity issues and different aspects of life, I just wanted to show you two things real quick. One is on the on this section that we've called bending the arc of the law, from the phrase about bending the arc of the law towards justice. Then the arc of history towards justice is sort of taken from that. But the reason I mentioned it to you is just to make resources, slide, and a few other things that the bank was bringing. So what is meant to be sort of poorly resources. But part of what I want to do in this work is create spaces where people can tell their own dignity stories. And we're just very, very beginning of but one of the things that we've done is I work in Haiti for a while and children there. And the things we did was ask young children what dignity means. So basically the same question we start with class, but are of course not perspective of what they've read about or pandemic or anything like that, but just to sort of highlight the point that everybody, everywhere, comes and experience around the world. What so contributes. But you'll see it's a human somebody who runs a child center there to interview. You know, got very don't have music. That competition comes some princesses. That exhibit. It's a children's center. If they had prepared and what we had done, wrote these things. To me, it's pretty simple thing. That they, I think they did prepare certain, but that was in their own words. So that's just one example of to express dignity. In my clinic this past spring, the students activity and so and with the school classrooms. But yeah, it's one bench that was at the previous organization I worked with. We made a series of these ants, but one is from the right to vote, one is from so, and one is about the so, look there slide also. So the two talk like So, all right, thank you. So, uh,
Myself, Sindhuja, fourth student here at posters, and I'm taught in my first like, has the dignity of silence. That's right spaces. How in classrooms, hostels, or in projects or anything, the part or yes, people loud voices over the reflective ones. Through post, I would like to work on poster that proposal participation. Title it has like participation, respect, and how can that we could include everyone in a group space. And then my second idea is regarding to the dignity of labor. Student respect, where regarding regarding the in India, where all the sentence services what I feel is not treated with enough respect. For example, they don't have access to basic public space and for example, they're not into the spaces, etc. Uh, basic facilities for like basic facilities like no washrooms for the delivery boys when people things are to the to those they even recognize with their name nothing but just for example we call some even they have delivery boy name but we call delivery boy. So that's the social respects and that individuality could be somewhere. When, if left at night at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, what is the basic respect as a I like to make a poster or something regarding this. Like I would like to show how a different types, how different kinds of dignities are being violated in this workspace. Maybe in this I would translate them. It's dignity, bodily dignity, social dignity, and economic dignity. What are the 4 points that I would like to take? Any suggestions, guys? Thanks.
interesting thing. Are you talking, but does seem like there are different issues So are you talking about doing all of them or are you proposing to do, are you sort of considering stuff that just one?
If I'm in a poster, I would like to uh, incorporate all the 4 types of dignities in a single poster, like something in a that just showing how the dignity is being violated. Maybe just
Labor context.
for maybe give the expensive and then physical dignity at one point. Maybe something that I would just like to show how what like if how different kinds of dignities are being violated uh, regarding that in single poster. And the first topic where it is regarding the dignity and silence. Maybe I would give some guidelines or like how we can that is regarding how we can help or how we can uh, fight people in with how we can make feel dignified or comfortable the people who are very quiet or introverted in the group space or in the class. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Yeah, that would be great. My impression, you might consider looking, I mean, there's a lot of labor law out
Yes.
there. So you might consider taking internet so or something that's like dig perspective on it should be and then what it is or something like that. But just there's thank you.
So I was just very curious about the point of dignity for those who silent group settings because, like, if you take the example from law school itself, many what who speak and is cleared by questions of privilege and even language that are there. So many times what can happen right in a classroom setting, like everyone to let's say a lot of global background where they come from English, but not more to the discussions and the concept silent, not it's that silent, they are listening tells how they don't want to, but simply because it might be comfortable in that setting. And then so they take it interest in one and I do stem from that. So that's an example I want to relate to, but something that happens in law school as well, because our curriculum is based on English. And even the paper that the entrance exam that we set for, the common law admission test, is only based on English. So there are multiple backgrounds for people who come from other backgrounds. And so people
That I have seen practices which allow for participation. What are the ways in which it can be?
which work something on building their self-confidence. Maybe in a class quite fancy, a student is confident speak like is coming forward to say something, even if the person has a point. Maybe the professor or a faculty reporter who is is in charge of the class may talk to them, ask them, make comfortable to speak up. Maybe keeping ask question or making time to just say something very simple, even if it is right or wrong, so that that self confidence, and then maybe next time when they get a point, they may feel like, okay, maybe I can do this. I'm not. People don't judge me. Maybe people hear say, yeah, I'm not. They are not see me as an out of box person.
I just like two comments about this. One is that I think I, and I think you want to distinguish first in your project between issues of yes, right. So there are things that teachers can do in a classroom to facilitate, to encourage it. It's like, I want to get your project starts where that is not the last. Sort of. It's, but I it's in you know the person but it's so yours get the people first to make a difference.
To consider issue that what can we do. So with and first it's a PIM study talking about making compound test accessible to all languages. So security and play here in Nasser as well to a writing lab with people got their first language and some problems. When it comes to writing. So what I actually point that course and I'm talking about that just to make sure that everyone is comfortable and able to present themselves properly in class and get the words. So
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Suraj from fourth year from Answer. So one idea I have been thinking about is with respect to the disability rights and dignity in the private employment sector. We have lot significant amount of case law jurisprudence in the public sector pertaining to employment and promotion. But when it comes to the private sector, we have the statutory framework and the provisions mandating equal opportunities. But when it comes to the real life examples of case laws, it is somewhere it's like a niche area of law. So I want to explore and like my idea is to write a letter to the Department of Employment of Persons with Disabilities under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So now coming about the statutory work governing the private employment private sector. It's also Person with Disabilities Act 2016, which has been formulated under the United Nations Convention of Person with Disabilities, and there are also rules enacted in 2017. So essentially, or particularly speaking, Section 21, read with Rule 8 of Rights of Person with rules person with disabilities, they mandate the formation of equal opportunity policy across all establishments, including private sector. And the rules also govern what are the specifications of the what should be the specifications of the particular policy. But when it comes to the implementation and enforcement of that particular policy and equal opportunity across all establishments, it's something in which there are a lot of gaps and loopholes. So I want to address and I want to bring this into the attention of the ministry and request them for some sort of regulation or streamlining this and streamlining and mandating this particular provisions which are there. Like we have significant landmark cases like Rajiv Rathori in 2021, and we have Vikas Kumar's Union of India, which say that accessibility is a fundamental right, and reasonable accommodations are something that are inherent from the constitution as well as when it comes to dignity also. Dignity in the workspace environment is something that is significantly important in particular, but isn't enough. Like in the public sector, we have the statutory we have the case law precedents when it comes to the private sector, as I said, there's a lot of area to work upon. So this is the idea I have. I need to further delve into this. I'm open for any suggestions or guidelines.
We'll talk more. So I think we're running out of time. So for now, we will just hear everybody's pitches and then we'll find time to talk to all of you about how you can make this. Right.
Hello everyone, I'm Ragvi Ravindran from my law school 4th year.
Hello everyone, I'm Shobhan. I done my LLM. I'm from Hyderabad.
My idea is more of very suggestions. I was thinking of focusing on a religious text, which is Manusmriti, and how it has been propagated that it robs of women and lower caste. And my project was to focus on how I can pass those about Manusmriti, and I thought I could do it in the way of an article or a poster. And yeah, it's a misguided notion that I would want to set in the right path about the dignity of women.
But talk about it. As of now, we're just hearing your pitches, so we'll talk about it.
Again, Raghavi and
Shobhan.
Morning, ma'am. My name is Sibit Chakravarti. I'm from Karnataka State University. I'm a final year law student. Before coming to this clinic, just to dignity, I had a certain group in my mind. After attending 2 classes in this clinic, views about dignity changed in myself. My perspective got widened. My suggestion for the assignment is, why can't we do a paper or a essay or a poster with regards to doing advocacy declaration of the term dignity? If it is not defined in a proper way universally, it will lead to conflict in unthinkable ways. But they would use the word now. As of now, many judiciaries are using the word what human thinks of the humanity. Ma'am itself highlighted German judgment and the Canadian judgment. I like both the judgment. With regards to German judgment, I had some hesitations, but I need to read more about that because it is with regards to equality. My topic is advocating for a universal term with regards to dignity, highlighting what if we could not do it, that it will lead to certain biases which may lead to conflict with each other. So now the term is being used to promote human things with regards to humanity. I also read many things with regards to dignity. I also read how the term dignity originated etymologically. Etymologically, it basically means dignity does not have a proper respect and all. And it promotes hierarchy. It came from the word Latin term where it was used to. If you see the Roman state, Roman had a concept of citizens and slaves. There only citizens were given certain rights, and for them, they would use the term dignity, and dignity defines a sense of honor and worthiness. So, what standing he has in the society. So, my project is asking for advocacy for a universal declaration for the term dignity in a proper, just, and non-discriminating way.
Hi, I'm Nitesh from K. As an animator and game designer, and a student animator such Waves India 2020. Topic is very basic and simple, like of students or children in schools and colleges. My to tell students have been treated in a dignified manner can be a useful product and so to our nation. But if the dignity in their environment is absent, they cannot even think straight in any aspects, and it raises to negative thoughts, and he becomes a villain in the society. Like this, I want to represent in a poster art or a short animated film or like.
Heard you? Yes, that's all.
Hello everyone. My name is Devnandan. I just passed out of the second year. I'm studying at National Forensic Science University, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. So I've heard some ideas here. I've already collaborated with Ashi from fifth year of Nalsar with about stuff. With scientific maths, actually, we are in discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vansh. Second cross. Please. Use around. Presenting my project and in the form of a reflective legal narrative. Basically, it would start with analysis, add on some case explore childhood dignity violations and advocate for systemic reform in how youth is viewed under domestic child rights.
One more person. Then I think it's fine.